Say you've changed the Constitution. Well, you know, we'd all love to change your head.
The founders of the U.S. government did not intend to create a democracy. They drew upon the ideas of Aristotle and the example of the Roman Republic, among other sources, in order to create what they called a republic. In a republic, you didn't just have democratic elements that gave power to the common people, you also had oligarchic elements that gave some powers to the more wealthy elite. Now let me back up a minute to the American Revolution before the writing of the Constitution. When the leaders of the Revolution were trying to get people, fired up in order to join the war against the King of England, they had to find a new ideology to counter the respect that people generally had for the king. Remember, under feudal society for years, the idea was that God gave power to the king to have power over the people, over the society. So what they did is the revolutionary leaders counterposed this ideology of power coming from the bottom up, the consent of the governed. Power came from the bottom up instead of the top down, and that meant they wanted a republic, a government of the people. And a republic at that time simply meant that no king, rather we ruled ourselves. The problem was the first government of the United States, created by the Articles of Confederation, was simply an alliance of confederation between independent states. And the states themselves, there was movements of the people who understood now that they had fought for the rule of the people and all these ideas about human equality, and they wanted to extend debt relief to people of less property. This worried the more educated and the more wealthy elites, which is what led them, among other reasons, to start this secret meeting, really is what it was, to create a new constitution. And within that constitution, the idea was to have oligarchic elements, like the Senate, and more democratic elements, like the House of Representatives, that would put a check on each other so neither would get too far out of hand. If you look at the arguments of James Madison in his Federalist No. 10, he sounds a lot like Aristotle's book, The Politics. Most societies are divided between people of property, the wealthy elite, and the ordinary people who have less wealth, and they tend to struggle against each other for power. He didn't like these kinds of factions developed, wanted a more unified society where both the rights of people of property and the rights of common people, some say in the government, were protected. So that was the whole idea between the U.S. Constitution. It was not simply a democracy, but it was a form of government that put a check on democracy in the name of the more wealthy elite, while also hoping to check the wealthy elite from having too much power themselves and use it against the people. One more element of this ideas from classical Greece and the Roman Republic was pertinent to the deliberations of the constitutional founders, and that was they felt that they needed a centralized executive power to help direct the government. They knew in the English system of government, they not only had a parliament divided between the House of Lords and the House of Commons, similar to what they were trying to do, they had a king. The big worry, though, was that if they created a central executive, which became the presidency, there would be a tendency for power to amass in the hands of the presidency, become like a new king, which in classical thought meant would revert to a tyranny over the society. Their biggest fear, in line with classical thought, was that some military figure or charismatic leader would emerge, speaking in the name of the people and challenging the structures of government that kept the peace between the wealthy elite and the common people. We're still living in that constitutional tension between protecting the rights of property of the elite and giving some say, of power to the common people, and also the emergence of a charismatic leader who wants to aggregate power in his own hands and probably in the name of the people, but to the benefit of the billionaires that are allied with him.